Good evening. The opinions and statements voiced by our guests do not necessarily reflect the opinions of this network. Enjoy the shows.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army. Army officers say the missile, found sometime last week, has been inspected at Roswell, New Mexico, and sent to Wright Field, Ohio, for further inspection.
Now, historic films made in the spring of 1948 and just released show Eniwetok preparing for heavily guarded and still largely secret tests of new atomic weapons. The test's purpose is to measure atomic effects on thousands of different materials, 30,000 tons of them, not, as at Bikini, to prove military effectiveness.
San Francisco police say that 9 persons have been arrested in a narcotics raid on the headquarters of the Grateful Dead, a widely popular singing group. 2 members of the group, Rod McKernan and Robert Weir, and their business manager, Danny Rifkin, have been booked on suspicion of possessing narcotics.
3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11. Tower cleared.
We got a roll program. Neil Armstrong reporting the roll and pitch program, which puts Apollo 11 on a proper heading.
I'm going to step off the limb now. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Well, strange lights are causing a viral buzz on YouTube. Could we have caught extraterrestrial activity on a recent newscast? Brandon Arroyo investigates.
As the newscast ended, the controversy began back on September 26th. What is that light shining in the back of the dark night sky?
With coverage reaching all the way back to 1948, for over 70 years, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Now, Fate Magazine Radio is carrying on that tradition of setting the standard in paranormal talk radio as we report and discuss some of the most mysterious and perplexing phenomena imaginable in this strange world of ours. Now, here is your host of Fate Magazine Radio, Kat Hobson.
Good evening. Welcome to Fate Mag Radio here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. We are the online voice of Fate Magazine, and I guess that makes me kind of the voice of Fate, right? It's okay. I'm Southern. It sounds like it. Fate's nice. I am so excited about tonight's show, but before we get into that, I would like to voice an opinion that is simply my own. And that is that I am so concerned about the situations that are going on all over our country. It doesn't appear that people are being kind, which goes a long way, or listening to each other instead of just yelling at each other. And that's everywhere. It really is. And I get that. It's a very upsetting time in our nation's history. I always say, and y'all know I close the show with, if you don't like the world you're living in, you can change it. You can talk to your higher power, talk to your creator, and just pray or chant or whatever it is that you do to communicate with him, and just ask for healing. Ask for healing of the anger. Ask for healing of the victims. The victims are legion. in these riots because they're getting out of control. And for our leadership too. Because the leadership isn't going to change until elections do that or whatever. And you want them to be doing the best job they can. And if you pray for them, you can help them do that. It's on us. So I just would like prayers for our country. Positive energy flows, whatever you do, we need you doing it. If you're a light worker, ramp it up. I know it's overwhelming. There's a lot of negativity, but it's our job to do that. So let's rock that, okay? We can fix this. And now, speaking of light and energy, I am so excited to welcome tonight's guest. And I know a lot of y'all are very familiar with his work. He is somebody I admire greatly. And that is Tom Paladino, who is a scalar energy researcher with 25 plus years, helping people recover from pathogenic infections. Now, those are any number of things. And when I started actually doing my research, I was astounded. I think you're going to be astounded by him too. So let's go ahead and get this show rolling. And Tom, thank you so much for being here. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Likewise, it's a pleasure. Good evening, all. Thank you.
Well, I know that you are one of the most positive people I've spoken with, just the little bit that we have. I find your work really interesting. I don't know how you went from being a researcher and following people. You do what you do because of your admiration for so many who came before you. And yes. I'm interested in learning how you went about creating this machine, how you went about understanding what this could do, because it's unusual in standard practice. So where would you think would be the best starting point for this conversation? School? Starting out?
We have to always start with God, because
yes,
God,
we do.
God gives us the wisdom. And without God's help, without God's guidance, you're lost. And
True.
I would say that, why am I successful doing what I'm doing? I'm obedient to God. I listen to God. And that's my key. I'll speak for myself. I won't speak for others. But I am working with an emerging science. We call it scalar energy, scalar light. Some people call that quantum energy. Call it what you will. It's an emerging science. It's not electricity. We don't work with electricity. And what I have found to be true about this energy, it's quite fantastic, the principles that guide this energy. And I have to really underscore that this is not electricity. It's a different type of energy. And this new technology will take the world by storm one day. And hopefully soon, because the world needs this. We're at a threshold in the world events today. We need a different way of addressing problems, and that's what I'm so keen on. That this new technology will give us a new prospect of addressing these issues, that these long-standing issues that we have never been able to address sufficiently with our current state of the art. Our current inventions, our current technology is failing us. We need a new approach, and this new approach with scalar will allow us to overcome many problems. What is energy? It's a tool. So we're going to speak about this tool tonight, and how this tool, this technology, is unlike anything we've ever experienced before. This is the game changer we've been waiting for.
Well, I'm very excited by that. It's interesting because when we were talking, I used to work for a major charity. And when we were doing research and stuff because, my organization supported research. My dad ran was executive director of a comprehensive cancer center. And it was so weird because stuff that was coming out of other countries that was being just discarded by professionals within cancer research in the U.S., they called it quackery. And there were actual bulletins on different treatments and stuff of that nature, letting people know that, if you hear about this, da-da-da-da-da. So a lot of things got pushed aside that are now today standard therapeutic treatments and protocols for various forms of cancer. Because they were breaking it down by the form. And I feel like people that are not familiar with this level of energy are maybe, I don't know if that would still be the case, but I'll bet that at first this met with some pushback. Did you find that?
Yes, I have, and that's current. That's not going to go away. But here's the real kit and caboodle. If it works, people accept it.
Yep.
No matter how revolutionary, how different, how much of a game changer, if this is deemed as a benefit to mankind, it will be embraced.
Yes.
This will be embraced. Yep. This will be embraced. Yep.
Well, where did you? I know that you're a Tesla fan, among many others. And I know that, excuse me, he was the pioneer of this scalar energy. So we all know that he is definitely not given his place.
Correct.
in research history. So he actually discovered that scalar energy offers direct control, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
Go ahead.
He was the first man to harness scalar energy and to develop instruments that controlled it. He was so far ahead of his time. And now here we are 150 years later, and we're just starting to realize what he knew and what he accomplished. He's just, he was 100 years ahead of his time, 150 years ahead of his time. So, God bless Nikola Tesla. What he saw, what he envisioned is the world that I see. But, sadly, there were nefarious forces that stood in his way, and for various reasons. But he was the first man to harness scalar energy, or what some people call quantum energy, or what some societies, some cultures might call chi or prana. It's not electricity. It's an entirely different energy spectrum. I guess today many physicists call that black energy or quantum energy or 0-point energy. It's so exciting what this can do. We'll explore some of those things over the next hour.
Well, I'm very excited because I have a lot of respect for Tesla. He is somebody who is also one of my heroes. The things that he was working on and the things that he developed, I'm like, why are we not utilizing all of this?
Right.
Where is this knowledge base? And so now we have scientists who are working with quantum science and quantum energy. But it seems to be geared toward things that are still power oriented. Not electricity power, but
yes,
power based, which was what literally killed Tesla. So,
yes, you're absolutely right. And in this world today of hegemony and one-upmanship, well, where are we going, and where do we want to set our sights with this type of technology? Technology is a game changer, as I mentioned, and those who possess the technology will have an advantage. They'll have an economic advantage. They'll have a military advantage, perhaps, and that's what the world is always looking for in technology: power. And from that power, we also derive a monetary reward. Well, Tesla was never interested in money. He was a true scientist, and this is why even scientists today, they're motivated for the wrong reason. And because of that, they'll never have the intellectual prowess of Tesla. Tesla was a good man. He was a humanitarian, and he wasn't driven by money and power. And for that reason, I believe God gifted Nikola Tesla. And let's hope that we see this spirit of Tesla survive today and thrive today, in which technology is nothing more than a tool that serves mankind. Technology will better our lifestyle. That's the whole point. Otherwise we would all be living in caves now. So we embrace technology, and again, scalar technology is about to change the world.
Well, you know what? In full disclosure, we're changing mine. So,
yes.
Yes. Because I am participating in your trial period. So, and in 2 days, I feel when you're doing whatever it is that you do with your light. So I am going to let you explain that as well. I am really intrigued because you went from researching the energy, the actual field, to building a device that you can use for that remotely.
That's right.
That's a big jump.
Right. It is. But that jump took me 40 years.
Astounding, right?
Yeah, exactly. You have to go to school, so to speak, and you've got to pay your dues. And what I learned as a youngster, and then during my high school years and during my collegiate years, I've refined my approach. And now at age 60, I could say after 40 years of research, I understand it. And I can control this energy. And I can perform incredible, prodigious feats with this energy. But that's after 40 years of hard research.
Well, it sounds exciting.
It's fascinating. It's fascinating.
A lot of controlling. What was your aha moment that made you decide this is what I'm going to work on?
As a youngster, when I was reading about Tesla, and I understood that he was working with scalar energy, and he was able to control nature. That's the key. With these instruments, he had mastery, he had control over nature. And I knew he was onto something. And I wanted to imitate him. I wanted to walk in his footsteps. And I knew that I would have to pursue a course in private study, because this is not taught at the university. This is groundbreaking. This is all brand new, if you will, to the scientific community. And with that, I knew that in order to walk in his footsteps and to reintroduce his inventions and his theories to mankind, I would have to set myself apart. I don't run with the pack. I never have. I never will. And in order to really perform what I consider groundbreaking research, you cannot be inhibited, not by a board of directors, not by your peers. You have to stand alone, and you have to rely upon God. And this is why I'm successful. I am not persuaded by a board of directors. Okay, I do not have to answer to my peers. Okay, and I have pursued this course of action, and it has been fruitful, but it's been time consuming, and it's been painstaking. But that's what it is in its seminal form. When you start out with a brand new science, so to speak, you've got to be the trailblazer. Somebody has to cut the path. And the initial trailblazing is difficult. It is arduous. So I knew what Tesla was doing. He was a trailblazer. And I made it my point up that in my life, I too would be a trailblazer.
Well, we are going to go to our first break, and I want to hear about you blazing those trails because I just find your work amazing, and I've told everybody about it. So we'll be right back. Y'all come back too.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama. Since 1948, Fate Magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting. You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
We are confident that none of our hosts are possessed. Being repossessed a few times? That might be a different story. You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour. Welcome back to Fate Mag Radio. I am Kat Hobson, your host, with my guest, Tom Paladino, who is talking to us about scalar energy and scalar light specifically. And Tom, I apologize for interrupting your train of thought as we went to break, but I'm enjoying this.
Likewise. Thank you. I appreciate the platform.
Glad to offer it.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So speaking about Tesla was the first man to harness and to control this quantum energy, scalar energy. And again, to underscore, when you can control energy and make it perform a work function, what does that do? Well, it abets mankind. It makes our lifestyle easier. It if you will, allows us to perform a work function so that we don't have to perform that manual labor. A machine will do that. An instrument will do that. Well, that's the entire key. Many people have cars today, and a lot of people prefer to drive in a car rather than walk 20 miles or take a horse on a journey for 20 miles. My point is very simple. An invention, a technology, will help mankind. It will help promote the human race, and that's what I'm trying to do with scalar energy. I'm trying to promote mankind. I'm trying to make this energy palatable and for people to understand it. And once they do that, they'll see that this is an incredible tool, just like a car or a computer or a light bulb for that matter. So the point is to improve the welfare of people around the world. That's the point of invention. It's not to win a prize or to accrue a great deal of money through patenting anything. It's all about helping people. You have to be humanitarian if you're going to be an inventor.
Well, otherwise your motivation would be lacking.
We're right. You can't do it for money or power. You have to do it for God's glory, and you want to help people.
Two things that always work for me. Because, I wouldn't be doing what I do without both of those motivators.
Right. So going back to my earlier thoughts, Tesla really started his career with electricity. He's known as the father of AC electricity, and he gave us the modern day age. So many inventions today that we take for granted either has Tesla's imprimatur on it, or at least he had some influence upon the inventors and the discoveries therefrom with this new energy back then, AC electricity. So he's the father of AC electricity. But a lot of people don't realize that he abandoned his research with electricity at some point in his life, and he devoted the remainder of his life to scalar energy. He saw a different prospect. He saw a new prospect in scalar energy. And this is the part of his life, the latter part of his life, that is so poorly understood. And one of the reasons that it is so poorly understood is that Tesla was so far ahead of his time. He was now working with quantum energy or scalar energy. And to this day, most people, even those who are physicists, do not realize that Tesla had discovered scalar energy and that he was inventing and working with scalar energy instruments on a regular basis. They still look at his inventions during his latter days as electrical in nature. They're not. They're scalar energy. And this is why Tesla cannot be duplicated. This is why no scientist today has been able to duplicate Tesla's work, because they're trying to duplicate, in the latter part of his life, his scalar technology with electrical technology. It won't work. It won't work. You're comparing apples to oranges. Mm-hmm. And we'll get into what his advances were and what Tesla's vision was with this new and emerging science, scalar science.
Well, do people now, I know that there's several quantum physicists that I follow because I find their work interesting too, but do people as a rule recognize that Tesla was working in quantum energy?
No. Without equivocation, no. Most people are oblivious to that. Tesla had built a tower in Long Island, New York. It's called Wardenclyffe Tower. And his design was to power the world, or a good portion of the world, with that scalar tower. It was a scalar energy tower. And if you look at the tower, it does not have any electrical wires attaching it. Mm-hmm. Well, if it was electricity, then you need some type of substation or some type of electrical wires. There was no electrical wires attached to this tower in Long Island. Tesla envisioned wireless transmission of energy. So imagine that. Instead of using wires and having substations and power generators, Tesla would simply transmit the energy through the atmosphere without wires, without a power generator, without an armature, without substations. And to give you an analogy, remember everybody had to use a landline 20, 30 years ago. 20, 30 years ago. Well, now there's wireless transmission of cell phones. Well, look what the cell phone has done for us, for technology, for mankind, that we do not have to be at a fixed base operation to make a telephone call, because it's cumbersome. You have to go to you cannot rely upon wireless transmission to make a telephone call. You have to go to your home or to a phone booth. Well, what did this technology do? It's wireless transmission of a telephone signal, of this type of microwave signal. Well, this is what Tesla was envisioning now with electricity, but not with electricity, rather with scalar energy. So if we have a wireless transmission today of a telephone call, if you will, then Tesla was envisioning that not only for telephone calls, but also for electricity. Now, what does that mean to us? Well, if we could harness this quantum energy and do so at an inexpensively and safely, then we would no longer have a power crisis. We'd no longer have an energy crisis. So this is what Tesla had envisioned: free energy or relatively inexpensive energy. Why? Scalar energy is from the sun and the stars. So Tesla, when he was building his tower in Long Island, people were befuddled. They said, where are the electrical wires? Where's the substation? This was at a remote part of Long Island at that time. Well, there was no substation, and there was no power generator. Tesla was going to gather this energy from the atmosphere. Okay, it's free energy. So that's what Tesla envisioned at this Long Island tower, Wardenclyffe Tower. It was going to be free energy for the world. But the powers that be, people like the Rockefellers and the Warburgs, did not want that. They wanted to retain their control of money and power. So they undermined Tesla's his attempts to bring to the world wireless energy, which is this all pervasive, clean, perfect energy, free energy of the sun and the stars. So what am I trying to do? Well, let's resurrect Tesla's work. Why not give mankind free energy? That was Tesla's vision.
Well, that is also what got him in trouble.
Yeah.
Because the powers that be were making money off of normal sources of electricity. Is this a good time? Because I think this is going to feed into the chat room and other listeners' understanding of where we're going in this conversation. But Sherry said, what exactly does quantum energy mean?
Let's define that. It's not electricity or magnetism. There's two energies, and let's just concentrate on quantum energy, or what some people call scalar energy. Mm-hmm. In very simple terms, and to speak on a fundamental footing, quantum energy is from the sun and the stars. If you look at the energy, the light in the universe, where does it originate from? From the sun, from the stars. God created the sun and the stars. So this really is a heavenly energy, the sun and the stars. And when you can tap into that star energy, you're tapping into that perfect energy, which is free energy, clean energy, and superabundant energy. Quantum energy is the energy of the stars. And it's not created by man. So I have to underscore that. You don't need a power plant for this. The power plant are the sun and the stars. So quantum energy, to answer the question, is the energy of the sun and the stars. I believe it's a divine energy.
Mm-hmm. And how long ago did Tesla figure all this out, she says?
Tesla was, actually in 1899, Tesla was experimenting with scalar energy in Colorado Springs. I've read his notes from Colorado Springs. So as early as 1899, in application, in practical application, he was working with scalar energy. I'm sure he was working with it years prior to that. So we'd say at the end of the late 1800s, Tesla was perfecting his theories on scalar energy.
Isn't that just astounding?
Mm-hmm.
And people act like quantum is such a big new to-do now.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah. Yeah, if you look at the career of Nikola Tesla, he's so far ahead, even today of modern day physics, so far ahead, and nobody can compare to him to this day. And so if we revisit his genius, then we can hopefully recreate his experiments and recreate his discoveries, and with that, this new energy, this new paradigm unfolds. And what does that mean to mankind? It improves our lifestyle. That's the whole point of invention. Had we have listened to Nikola Tesla, we would have free energy today. You would not have wars over oil. You would not have this strife, this economic strife. You would not have pollution. There's no pollution with quantum energy. It's not combustion.
Because it's natural.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Well, I'm still waiting on my flying cars. So
Yes. Yes.
Grew up on the Jetsons. I wouldn't mind a robot maid either. But
there's a corollary to that, if I may.
Yes.
Tesla, as he perfected scalar research, Tesla took a car and he took out the engine. The model was called Pierce Arrow. It was a popular car back in the day. And he took out the combustion engine, and instead he put in some type of scalar energy apparatus in which he could capture the ambient energy, the quantum energy in our atmosphere. And he operated this car on quantum energy, on Tesla energy, and the car did not have any combustion. It was quiet in operation. It was silent in operation. It did not produce any smoke or smog or any type of residue. This was the first scalar energy car in which Tesla was able to use the free energy of the atmosphere and power a car. Now imagine that. Free energy to power our cars. There was no combustion, hence there's no CO2. We don't have to worry about greenhouse gases. Okay, it's free. It's sun energy. It's star energy, so it's inexpensive to operate. You don't have to pay money to put gasoline in your car. It's not a consumptive product, if you will. You're not consuming gasoline, and it's safe. The car was very safe. The car behaved extraordinarily well under this influence of quantum energy. Well, why aren't we doing that today? Why aren't we powering our cars with quantum energy? Why do we still use, dirty petrol, dirty gasoline, and pollute our atmosphere? We should have listened.
I have a question about that, actually, because I believe that Elon Musk, who I think also is a huge Tesla fan since he named his car after him. But I think that he is trying so hard to find the way to do that.
Yes.
And as smart as he is, and with all of the money that he has, he still can't do it. Why do you think that is?
And God bless him. I think he has a lot of good ideas. So I don't want to deride. Want to deride his effort. And
me either.
I'm glad. I just want to. Exactly. And we always give a man his due or a woman her due, as provided that they're trying and they're sincere. There's one mistake on his part. He's still trying to use electromagnetic energy, which is limited. Electricity is limited. Scalar quantum energy is unlimited. So even though the name Tesla car is really different and it's revolutionary, it's still using electricity. It's not using quantum energy. And to this day, I don't know. I'm not going to judge at a distance. I don't know. I'll just make a general comment. Many people do not realize that there's two energies. And when we speak of Tesla energy, we really should defer to his career in the latter part of his life, which was a scalar career. Tesla energy will someday be considered that quantum energy. That's going to be his most famous chapter in history, in which he shows the world that scalar energy or quantum energy does exist, and he was the first scientist to control that energy, that scalar energy.
Well, I was just curious, because for Tesla to have been able to do this with the tools in hand in that period, and for people who are trying very hard to find and develop this energy, is it the method of harnessing that is eluding them?
They just don't have God's wisdom. I'll say this about Tesla. God bless everybody. Everybody has intellect to some certain degree. There's nobody like Tesla. What he achieved is hundreds of inventions throughout his lifetime. I've read his notes. They're so far-reaching. It's so profound. Nobody can hold a candle to him, even to this day. So when we think of Tesla, we think of not only a great inventor, but his thinking was so keen, and he understood nature like none other. Even today, you'll have scientists who, they're adept. They understand electromagnetic energy. Good for them. But when you introduce to them this other energy, there's two energies. When you introduce to many scientists quantum energy, they don't know. They simply don't know. That subject really has never been broached. They're not proficient with this quantum energy. And because of that, they really are not in the position to forward the science. They've not spent the time with this. They don't understand it. It's not their calling. And I understand that. So we have to keep in mind there's two energies. There's electromagnetic energy, and then the other energy, which is far superior, is quantum energy or scalar energy.
Okay. I really thought they were the same.
Yeah, two different energies. And to explain that in further detail, all energy comes from the sun and the stars. And the initial energy of the universe is scalar energy. And after scalar energy will, if you will, propagate from the sun and the stars, in many environments it breaks down. And scalar energy will break down. Its derivative is electricity and magnetism. So the initial energy, the quantum energy of the universe, the first energy of the universe is scalar energy. And therefrom, many of these stars, after they broadcast scalar energy, you'll see a breakdown of that perfect energy into electricity and magnetism. It's that simple. And if I had my druthers, I would just work with star energy. I do not really see much of a future with electromagnetic energy.
Okay. I think I'm there. So, well, now chat wants to know, does no energy come from the moon?
No, it does. The moon is
a
an
reflector.
Earth. Yes, indeed. Yes, it is.
It just sits there looking pretty.
Yeah, if you look at the sun and the stars, that's the point of origin of all light, of all energy in the universe. The stars are essentially the storehouses of God's energy.
Oh, I like that. And with that, we are going to go to our next break so that I can write that down and save it. So, everyone, I hope you're enjoying this as much as I am. Y'all come on back. We're going to.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Welcome back to Fate Mag Radio, the online voice of Fate Magazine. I am here with my guest, pardon me, Tom Paladino, who is so patiently answering questions. And I have to say, I have to repeat the line that we closed that segment with, which is, stars are the storehouses of this light.
Yes.
And I just think that's beautiful. And you said that was given to you.
Yes.
And I'm so glad it was. What?
Yes.
Sherry wants to know, when we get to a point, what made you start researching this? You know,
I was called. I was called. The Holy Spirit called me.
Okay.
Yep. God asked me to do this because God knew that I would listen and that I had the intellect for this and that I had the desire. I had the acumen for this. And it's been a lifelong endeavor. And it's been fruitful. And I'm thankful for this calling. But I will be the first to tell you, Kat, this is work. And unless you're willing, you're darn right, unless you're willing to dedicate yourself to this, then you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. This is work. Any type of groundbreaking research, it's tough because it's never been done before. And sometimes you have to learn by trial and error. It's not easy.
Well, anything worth doing, though, usually isn't.
You're right.
So I have never found a truly easy path in anything that I've been drawn to or led into. So I agree. Now, do you want to answer? Well, you did answer, Sherry. I have a question relevant to the tower, because I have seen all kinds of information about that tower. I have also seen information relevant to obelisks that are all over the world. I mean, and I'm seriously all over the world. They're in areas we can't even get to due to their political climate, like, Tibet and the Asian regions through the mountains, as well as South America, here, everywhere. Do you think that the people of our ancient history already knew this? And those obelisks were means such as the tower to transmit it from point to point? Because there would have to be a catch-all.
I think many of those obelisks are really of various origins, but if you will, perhaps some of those obelisks are passive capacitors of scalar energy. Perhaps. With that said, we could look at many of the inventions today that we would ask ourselves, how is it that many of these architectural feats and in regions around the world where there's really no immediate supply of that type of quarry stone, how can many of these architectural buildings feats been accomplished? And I will say that in some cases, the only explanation is the use of some type of anti-gravity instrument to lift these heavy stones into place. Even modern day cranes cannot lift these heavy stones into place or to fashion these monolithic structures. So we look around the world today, anything from pyramids to obelisks to certain types of archaeological ruins, and it begs the question: what type of machinery was used to create this type of stonework, and how did they lift it in place? And in many ways, I think the only explanation with some of those architectural buildings, architectural monuments, is with an anti-gravity instrument.
Well, I would agree. And you have the home down near Miami, the Crystal Palace, I think it's called.
Yeah,
where the man built that home by himself.
Yes, the Coral Palace. Yes, exactly. You're right. You're right.
So other people have tapped into this, just not sharing it.
Yes. We're speaking about what's called some people call it the Coral Castle in Florida.
Coral Castle.
Yeah, and a man who's really no longer alive, Edward, I believe it was Leedskellen. He was a diminutive in stature. Anyway, this man of small stature apparently could build this coral castle single-handedly. And many times he would build at night where people could not see what he was doing. And these were just incredible limestone structures that were built. And to this day, we really don't quite understand the mechanism, how this one man who was small in stature could produce this coral castle and do so single-handedly. He probably had some type of anti-gravity instrument.
I just find that fascinating. My husband, who is a machinist and just loves the H blocks that should never have managed to fit together the way they do and things of that nature, is always astounded by those situations.
Yes.
And especially how they're cut.
Yes.
Not just,
the precision.
Yes.
We look at some of these architectural monuments around the world, 1,000 years old, 2,000, 3,000 years old, and the precision that the stonework is just it's exquisite to this day.
Yes,
we would be
our CNC would have a hard time with that.
Yeah, we'd be hard pressed to create these architectural buildings, monuments with precision that was experienced and seemed to be commonplace 2,000, 3,000 years ago. So there's something to be said about this. Sure.
I just love these things. And it's really great to know that there's a way to do that. So if that man had an anti-gravity device,
yes,
where would he have gotten that?
Exactly. How did he learn that? What type of understanding did he have? These were incredible pieces of limestone, very heavy,
yes,
massive, and during the course of a night, apparently his neighbors would say that he would build, and the following morning they would see part of a structure erected. Well, how could this one man, without machinery, perhaps without any type of conventional machinery, create this coral castle single-handedly? There's only so much weight a man can lift. Well, he was using anti-gravity. He had some type of anti-gravity instrument that would lift into place this gigantic and very heavy limestone blocks.
Well, and the limestone had to be formed.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It's an anomaly that nobody has been able to explain. And my theory is this man of frail stature. He was really he wasn't really a robust man. This man who built the Coral Castle had to be using some type of advanced technology, probably some type of anti-gravity instrument.
That's the question of the century, isn't it? Where did he get it?
Yeah.
and what did he do with it?
Yeah, and imagine had all of this lost technology that we speak of so frequently, this lost and suppressed technology, imagine what we could do and how we could improve the world with this lost technology. Well, let's hope the world is wise to this, and let's hope the world sees the merit of this technology. Yeah, that's the whole point of technology, to help mankind to propel the human race, to give us, if you will, a better lifestyle. That's what invention's all about. Too many inventions, too many techniques, too much technology has gone by the wayside, and this lost technology, this suppressed technology, is now costing us dearly. We have many problems in this world that could have been overcome by this technology. However, for whatever reason, we now are still in the dark ages in many respects, and we need this new technology.
Or ancient technology.
Yeah.
That's what gets me, because this was so... Apparently he only used it for this job.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yes.
It just blows my mind. My husband, and I've driven through there. I've never stopped, because I know that I'll just sit there driving all the way home from Miami in a quandary, because I do like making that drive. But, I am just overwhelmed with the possibilities, and the fact that, to my knowledge, he never used it again. He didn't do anything else.
That's as I understand. And some people say that he was romantically fragile because he was spurned by a woman, and that was his final effort in life, to build this castle. But it begs the question, how could one man single-handedly erect this castle, and these limestone blocks weigh tons, and there was no crane. There was no crane on the site. There was never a crane. There was never a bulldozer. And this man single-handedly built this castle. He did not have any help. Quite fascinating.
It is fascinating.
Yeah.
And, I sit there and ponder on that and go cross-eyed. So I try not to do that for too long at a time.
Yeah.
But, when you sit there and, for you personally, you sat there and you were going through learning this, educating yourself, trial and error, trying to find things. Did you make any crazy mistakes?
No, not crazy mistakes. Let's call them minor mistakes, and they're all learning situations. Mm-hmm. The nice thing about working with Scalar Energy, you can easily control it. Okay, you cannot control an airplane out of control. You cannot control a wildfire easily. Scalar Energy is easy to control. So, and the fact that I've miniaturized these instruments, I'm not working with a gigantic tower, so everything is to scale, that can be easily controlled, easily manipulated. So most of my mistakes have been on paper, thank God.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Well, we've only got about a minute before we're going to go to our top of the hour break. I can't believe we've gone through an hour like this, like Sherman through Atlanta. But I am so interested when I read these testimonials that people have put on your website.
Yes.
So we have a question. I'm not asking it now because we'll be here till sunrise. And we have to go take our news break. But we're going to start off with this, and it's actually pretty interesting. We'll be back right after this, and I know the odds are long, but perhaps we'll find a little good news tonight, right? I'm ever hopeful. Ever hopeful.
Why not?
We'll catch y'all on the flip side. Good evening. The opinions and statements voiced by our guests do not necessarily reflect the opinions of this network. Enjoy the shows.
Support for this NPR podcast and the following message come from BetterHelp, online counseling by licensed professional counselors specializing in isolation, depression, stress, and anxiety. Visit betterhelp.com/news to learn more and get 10% off your first month.
Live from NPR News, I'm Janine Herbst. Washington, D.C.'s mayor says President Trump's actions and comments ultimately encouraged more people to show up at demonstrations in the nation's capital this weekend. NPR's Windsor Johnston reports Mayor Muriel Bowser and the president clashed in recent days over how to respond to protests ignited by the death of George Floyd.
Thousands of protesters flooded the streets of Washington, D.C. on Saturday, calling for justice in Floyd's death and other black victims of police violence. Speaking on ABC's This Week, Mayor Muriel Bowser continued to criticize the Trump administration's use of extraordinary federal law enforcement in the city.
What Americans saw was federal police forces tear gassing peaceful Americans, and how they responded made clear to the president that Americans would exercise their First Amendment rights, and they would do it peacefully.
Last week, Trump called Bowser, quote, grossly incompetent on Twitter after some of the protests grew destructive. Windsor Johnston, NPR News, Washington.
And thousands of people across Spain came out today against police brutality in a show of solidarity with protesters in the U.S. The largest turnouts were in Madrid and Barcelona. Lucia Benavides reports protesters observed a moment of silence to remember George Floyd and read a list of names of people killed by Spain's national police.
Protesters in the southeast city of Valencia chanted, "No human being is illegal," referring to the police violence that many migrants face, especially those from sub-Saharan Africa who primarily work as street sellers. The trade, which is illegal in Spain, is one of the only work opportunities for undocumented migrants.
Lucia Benavides reporting. The Minneapolis police officer at the center of the killing of George Floyd is expected in court tomorrow. Derek Chauvin is charged with second-degree murder. 3 other officers at the scene when he pressed his knee into Floyd's neck for nearly 9 minutes have also been charged. The global death toll in the coronavirus pandemic has surpassed 400,000. NPR's Jason Slotkin has more.
The U.S., which surpassed 100,000 deaths more than a week ago, accounts for about a quarter of the death toll globally. This grisly milestone comes as anti-police brutality protests continue in spite of pandemic fears, and as many states push forward with reopening plans. In Las Vegas, revelers were able to visit casinos again this weekend for the first time since March. Elsewhere, New York City will be allowed to ease some restrictions this Monday, weeks after much of the state already had. Johns Hopkins University's coronavirus tracker is widely cited and considered comprehensive, though public health experts say obstacles to testing and data collection have made it difficult to know the full extent of the pandemic's toll. Jason Slotkin, NPR News.
This is NPR. In South Africa, students in upper grades go back to school tomorrow after more than 2 months of a pandemic-induced break. This is part of a phased reopening of the country's schools. But as Ish Mafundikwa reports from Harare, not all schools are ready, and others were targets of vandals during the lockdown.
The government wanted the public schools to open on June 1st, but most of them were not COVID-19 ready. Angie Mochecha, the Minister of Basic Education, says challenges such as the availability of masks, water and sanitation have been mainly addressed.
95% of our schools have been provided with all the necessary COVID-19 imperatives.
Some children will also be going back to schools that were vandalized and torched during the lockdown. The minister says more than 1,600 schools were targeted. For NPR News, I'm Ishma Fundikwa in Harare.
Tropical storm Cristobal slowed down as it heads through the Gulf of Mexico, heading toward the U.S., bringing high winds and heavy rains and causing a storm surge from Louisiana to the Florida Panhandle. The National Hurricane Center in Miami says Cristobal has maximum sustained winds of 50 miles an hour. The storm is expected to make landfall in Louisiana later today. Rain is already heavy in many parts of the state, and officials are warning people of possible flooding. Louisiana's National Guard says it has dozens of high-water vehicles and rescue boats at the ready. I'm Janine Herbst, NPR News.
Welcome back to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 5 minutes after the hour. Welcome back to Fate Mag Radio, the online voice of Fate Magazine. I am Kat Hobson, your host, and I'm so glad you're here because this is a fantastic show. I am joined tonight by Tom Paladino. He is the founder of Scalar Light, creator of Scalar Light. He is a Scalar Energy researcher. And I am just so totally enjoying myself. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Pleasure.
And yeah, we've covered a lot. And for the longest time, I took notes during my interviews. I always take some. But I decided that I don't know why I quit taking, keeping such accurate ones, because I would go back and it aided me in my research. And I have to say that so far in the first hour, we are grooving with my notepad. So I'm going to have a lot of learning to do and follow up with. But the topic is fascinating.
It is, yes, it is.
I mean, and you've done this for 40 years. I think that's wonderful.
Thank you.
At least 40. And people can go to your website and learn about what you do, and they can see the client testimonials as well as the information on the different kinds of scalar light treatments available, the therapies and programs. And I mean, because you really do it all. You've got addiction chemical cleanse therapies, you've got mineral and precious stone therapies. You have so much to offer with this. And when I first started being aware of it, I didn't realize that there was so much you could do with it. So,
exactly. It's versatile. You're absolutely right. It's quite versatile.
And we have this question in chat, and we're going to go to that. And then I want to talk about the different things that you work with. What is your opinion on the alien hieroglyphics found at locations where these huge buildings were built without modern machinery?
Great question. I look at some of these buildings, these monolithic buildings of antiquity, even the pyramids. And to this day, we do not have the technology to build those monuments, to build those pyramids, nor do we have the technology to use those pyramids, those monuments, to align with astrological signs and to, if you will, to be a not only a compass for the earth, but a timepiece of the universe. So many of those monuments have the ability to measure a lunar day, a sidereal day, etc. And I look at that technology and I say to myself, 2,000-3,000 years ago, we did not have that technology. We don't have that technology today. So I look at the intent, and what is that? What is the intent of this building, these architectural feats, these monuments? And many of them are evil. Many of them are steeped in pagan ritual. So I would have to say that some, not all, some of these monuments, some of these pyramids were built by demons. That man, a human being, especially 2-3 years ago, with the lack of technology, could not build these pyramids, could not build these monuments. So some of those buildings, some of those monuments, some of those pyramids are really the work of demons. And I hold fast to that. What I've studied is really leads me to believe that those are the occult. Those are pagan temples. And it's certainly not done to glorify God.
Well, I think that we're pretty sure that they weren't done to glorify God, because they did not have the one God that Christianity has. So they worshipped a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So I am just so interested in how all of this technology was just flitting around everywhere all the time. So thanks. And I hope, Sherry, that answered you. So what I would like to talk about now, if you don't mind, is all of the things that you do just with your pathogen cleanse, because you offer a trial on that, and it's really interesting to me because it covers all kinds of things from viruses, bacteria, fungi, parasites. I mean, you really can do a lot.
Yes.
What do you do, and how did you develop that?
Let's look at the nature of scalar energy. It's an energy, quantum energy, that provides you control over nature. If you look at energy, what is it? It's a tool. It's a tool that you can use to control nature, to control an outcome. Well, scalar energy allows us, quantum energy allows us to control nature. And with a scalar energy instrument, I can control the molecular structure of a germ, of a microbe. How do I do that? Well, it's intelligence. It's quantum intelligence. And I can tell a microbe to fall apart. My instrument is an intelligent instrument. It can impart an instruction. It can impart a quantum instruction. And that instruction will tell the molecular bonds of a germ, of a virus, a bacterium, a fungus to fall apart. Now, you can only achieve that with scalar energy. I've never been able to duplicate those results with electricity. Why? Scalar energy controls molecular forms. And this is what I've discovered with my instrument. I have mastery, I have control over microorganisms. I can break down a microorganism. When I can break down a microorganism, it ceases to exist. If I shatter the molecular bonds of a germ, that germ ceases to exist. How do I do that? I do that with a scalar energy instrument. That's achieved with a scalar energy instrument. You cannot achieve that readily with an electromagnetic instrument. And this is why I've had such great success in clearing the body of pathogens.
Well, if you try to do it with quote, air quotes, normal energy, electricity, radiation, whatever, then you cause more harm to the host sometimes than you do to the microorganisms.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
And this does not. And just so people know, scalar energy is also known as prana, chi, radiant energy. We mentioned 0 point energy, orgone, alloptic. There's another I can't recall. But this does not seem to damage the host at all.
That's correct.
Is that true?
That's correct.
That's astounding.
Yeah, that's correct. It does not. It does not.
And you actually use photographs, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
And how does that work? Why is a photograph a good thing to use?
Yeah. Now, you're referencing how I use a photograph to instruct a microbe. Is that what you mean?
How you use a photograph. Can you capture or can you read someone's energy in the photograph? Can your device do that?
Yes. That's one of the fundaments of a scalar dimension. When you're in this dimension, this scalar dimension, it's a quantum dimension. It's a dimension of intelligence. And when you're working under that dimension, you're able to send a signal to any object or person And the way you direct that signal is by way of a photograph of an object or a person. So a scalar energy instrument can send a signal to any person or object in the world. And the intelligence, the instruction, is a photograph of that person. And how does that work? Well, a photograph of a person has a light signature. It has the signature of a person on it, or it has the signature of an object. Now, if you dial, I'll give you an analogy. If you dial a phone number, then that phone number that you're dialing has a specific signal attached to it. So you can receive a phone call on your cell phone. Well, if you will, you can dial in a person, if you will, by way of their photographic signature. A photograph of a person, an object, or anything has an inbuilt signature. It has an inbuilt mechanism whereby you can locate that person or that object. And with a scalar energy instrument, this quantum instrument, you could find people with it. You could locate people with this energy. It's quite profound. This is the intelligence spectrum that we're working with, the quantum spectrum. And this can only be achieved with a scalar instrument. You cannot achieve this with electromagnetic energy.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible for, I'm not sure how to phrase this question, like people who do healing, people who do such as this, is that something that they're manipulating as well? Have they found a way into a quantum scenario where they're controlling nature too? Or
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
yes.
It is possible to utilize the human mind or the human energy to perform this as well?
Yes.
Cool.
Any type of thinking is really a quantum function. Any type of cognitive thought is a scalar thought, a quantum thought. And this leads us to the conclusion, or at least it should point to this, that thinking is really a scalar phenomenon. You know, how is it that we think? Where does creativity come from? What gives us the thought? How does the thought perpetuate? What gives us the ability to think in the first place? Well, it has to be an intelligence. It has to be in a divine intelligence. And that's what I'm working with. Scalar energy is that divine intelligence. It is responsible for so many phenomena that we really haven't quite understood yet. And the fundament, the very bedrock of all thinking is a scalar function. It's a quantum function. So my instrument is a quantum instrument that allows me to capture, to work within that geometry, to work within that framework, that quantum framework, or what I would call the intelligence of the universe, the logos of the universe.
Okay. Mind blown.
Yeah, it's quite profound. You know, unless you study this and unless you're open to this, it's hard to grasp because so many people just look at the universe from an electromagnetic standpoint. Now, that's fine. Electromagnetic energy is real. But there's two realities. There's two dimensions. And to just isolate on the electromagnetic spectrum is short-sighted. There's two spectrums. There's two dimensions. So as we develop our understanding of quantum energy, then we will see that many of the mysteries of the universe will now be laid bare on account of the fact that scalar energy is the animating force and is the fundament responsible for so much phenomenon in the universe that has hitherto been either unrecognized or poorly understood.
Well, this is just a great time to get a break while I wrap my mind around these last couple of minutes because I've got questions. We will be right back after this, and I hope you come back too. Thanks for being here.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Several U.S. presidents are on record talking about the UFO mystery.
Yeah, Presidents Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan both had UFO sightings of their own, but the current presidential campaign might be the first in which UFO disclosure has been championed by a major party candidate.
DIA, CIA, it moves around, is operating a program to train psychic spies to spy and use their powers against Russia. John Ronson writes about this in The Men Who Stare at Goats.
The first known sighting of a ghost took place right after Abraham Lincoln was assassinated in the late 1860s during the administration of Ulysses Grant.
Project Paperclip, Clinton releases it all in 1998.
Possibly the unequal cooling of its surface.
I say, do you still think it's a meteor, Professor?
I don't know what to think. The metal casing is definitely extraterrestrial.
It's a place where UFO hunters and scientists gather to examine paranormal activity in the region.
Some of the documents, this is bringing Nazi scientists into the United States to work here. So we fought against the Nazis, and it's not, this again is not a revelation. As early as 1947, 1946, we knew some of this, right?
On the paranormal, will we see U.S. President Barack Obama's foreign policy go intergalactic in a quest for gold stolen by aliens? We'll tell you at least how the White House responded to claims the chief executive has been teleporting to Mars. But let's get to today's Capitol account.
UFOs, hauntings, psychic abilities, conspiracy, ESP, cryptozoology. There are many things that remain unexplained in the inexplicable world around us, and we're talking about them here, looking for answers on WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama. The truth is out there.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour. Welcome back to Fate Mag Radio. I am so glad you're here because, you know, I have struggled with various quantum theories for, I guess since I started trying to understand and research them. And tonight, I feel like I'm gaining enlightenment. You know, a friend of mine asked me last summer, do you really understand what quantum is? Well, I thought I did. And now I'm going, I so did not. And Tom, the way that you are explaining this, while it gave me pause in our discussion during the break, and I keep saying somebody should start recording breaks, but it's not going to be me. I think it's very beneficial because you describe quantum as the blanket of the universe, where everything is mellow. And I said, well, it's more like a stew. And you said it is a stew. Mm-hmm. So it's where everything comes together, everything interacts. And as you said, if you have a cognitive thought, then that is a scalar or quantum thought. But the dreams and stuff are too.
Yes, you're right. And that's why many people, when they're under the influence of scalar energy, their dream state enhances. Or they can sleep a much more powerful, meaningful, deeper sleep. How does that happen? Well, this is informational energy. And scalar energy can download into the human mind.
Just so neat. Is it something similar to like manifestation?
Yes, it is. Yeah, that's a good point. When you intuition or manifestation or clairvoyance, what is the driving force? What's the animating force behind those peculiar states of mind or those thoughts? It's scalar. Scalar is responsible for human thought. It's responsible for manifesting, for conceiving an idea and then bringing that conception into a reality, into a mental reality or a physical reality. Scalar is the fundament that drives our emotions. When we have a hunch, it's a scalar hunch. Why can we create? How can we invent? It's scalar technology. It's a download of scalar intelligence that allows us to invent, that allows us to create. And this is the beauty of this life force energy. This is where we're going. Scalar energy will allow us someday to really open up our mind, a true mind that is open. It's a mind that has a scalar energy pathway. The great inventors, the afflatus that so many of these inventors have experienced throughout their life, that was a scalar download. That was an afflatus from God. And that inspiration really is driven by this quantum energy. This quantum energy is the animating force of so much creation and creativity and avant-garde thinking.
This is just astounding. I mean, truly.
Yep.
I am so glad you're here. But one of the questions, actually there's two questions, but I'm going to go with this one first. I think it's relevant to right now. Do you believe that like Native Americans have, I'm going to say I know this answer, any interactions at all with any of this? They're so close to nature, the sun, moon, and stars. I think that they would have lived a scalar life. Do you not?
Yes. The closer you are to nature, the closer you are to scalar energy. And let's look at our modern day world. It's artificial. It's contrived. Mm-hmm. And in this contrivance, we separate ourselves from this quantum intelligence. So if you really want to get back to nature and you really want to embrace scalar energy, you can do that handily by becoming a purist, by going back to nature. We have all these gifts from God. Sadly, in many of the contrivances, as I will term them today, our modern day contrivances, are an impediment to this scalar lifestyle, to this natural way of living. Again, scalar energy is sunlight or starlight. Well, what could be more natural than sunlight or starlight? Right? There's an infinite number of galaxies. And where are we receiving all of this intelligence? From the sun, from the stars. So if you really want to connect to God, to source, call it what you will, you really have to be within that dimension. A scalar dimension is like none other. It's the dimension of God. It's that higher dimension that we all are looking for.
Well, yes. You know, I participate in a lot of really diverse groups on Facebook and other social media. It's fascinating to me that, you know, some people call themselves empaths, some people call themselves light workers, some people are psychics, some people are mediums, some people are the list goes on. And truly, I feel that the people that have those gifts and utilize them are just open more to natural energies. and they allow them to flow. So I just find this so cool. So very neat, because it's like the mind opening. And we've got another question about why you never mentioned the moon, and that's because it is not an energy source.
Correct. It's inert. There is no energy coming from the moon. It reflects sunlight, but
but it doesn't create light.
No, it does not. It's not a power source. Correct.
Right. Well, does that sound about right with the light workers? What those that call themselves energy workers?
Exactly. And when you say you're a light worker, that term really is synonymous with a prayer warrior, or a Bible scholar, or a positive affirmation coach. What's my point? Well, all of those are good, decent, moral, godly aspirations and actions. They're godly actions. So whether you're a faith healer, by the way, faith healing, when you place your hands on a person, you're imparting scalar energy.
Yes.
And that is the fundament. That's the animating force of faith healing. When a faith healer places their hands on you, well, we certainly don't deride a faith healer. Many people say, yes, I go to church, or we pray in tongues, or we all gather and we lay hands upon one another. That's scalar energy. That's the power of God. Now, you also have light healers that do that remotely. I'm a light healer, and I work remotely, but I still work with that same healing energy that you find in your hands, healing hands. That's scalar energy. You have coaches, you have psychologists, you have positive affirmation coaches, you have coaches who give you goals or creativity. What is that? Those positive affirmations are really scalar energy affirmations. They're really quantum affirmations. Okay, when we speak about some type of a pep talk, or some type of psychological lesson, or even psychologists, they have techniques. Well, what are they doing? Psychology, what's the fundament? What's the animating force of human thought, of human behavior, of human action? Praxeology, what is the reason behind human conduct? It's scalar energy. Why do we act? How do we act? Well, all of that is made possible by this intelligence. Without intelligence, you don't have a universe. So scalar energy, scalar intelligence, is responsible for human action, for human thought, for muscle contraction. Scalar energy is responsible for our circadian rhythm. How does the heart beat? Where does it receive the instructions? From scalar energy. Scalar energy is the fundament that gives us our heartbeat. How do we think? Where does the thought come from? From scalar energy. Where is all of this intelligence coming from? It's coming from God. And the power generation, the preferred method by God, is this star power. So light is illumination. How do you think we came about with that verb, to illuminate? You illuminate with scalar energy. How do we think? We think by way of scalar energy. So people don't realize it, but everybody's a scalar energy expert. Everybody thinks. Everybody has feelings. Everybody has a heartbeat. It's scalar energy. Scalar energy is the animating force of all of those events. But sadly today we've confined ourselves, and we just don't understand this universal consciousness. We don't understand this, what many people call this Christ principle. Scalar energy is the intelligence of the universe. And once we access that intelligence of the universe, and do so by way of either praying or our thoughts, or by way of instrumentation, okay, I have a scalar intelligence instrument, then we see that we now control nature. And that's the key. I with my instruments, have a access to that dimension. A scalar energy instrument allows me to access that that dimension. It's not an electromagnetic dimension. It's a scalar dimension. And when I'm in that dimension, I can do incredible things, such as break apart germs.
So fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
I am just blown away. I don't doubt anything. The other side of the coin is more the issue, in that it all resonates. It's a different term than I am accustomed to, but I have always felt that there was one source that everybody was tied into. Mm-hmm. And I guess now I would include everything in that.
Right.
But, I'm one of those goofy people that seriously talk to plants or trees. And, like, even if I have to trim back a bush, I'm like, I am so sorry. I know this is going to hurt for a minute. I mean, it's just goofy, but I do that.
Right.
But, my dad was the guy who, was that crazy PhD wandering through the woods dressed like Rambo, kind of trimming trees. And he was a great one for land maintenance of his land. And he didn't really look like Rambo, but, he was definitely into it. So he felt that too. And I guess that's why I was so aware of it. But it is amazing that people don't know this. The whole thing with your energy field balancing also does the same thing, and like with getting back in alignment with the path, with the intelligence of scalar or quantum, the intelligence of the universe. This is cool stuff.
Oh, yes.
You are so neat in getting to do the work that you do.
I am blessed. You're absolutely right.
You are blessed. And then the healing too.
Right.
Because right now, if I'm not mistaken, I've got this written down somewhere, but you can isolate and interact with 400 pathogens?
Right. So instructing my instrument, and it's easy to instruct the instrument, I can instruct the instrument to target, to look for over 400,000 species of pathogens. Okay, I've done this throughout my lifetime, and it's been my lifelong work to build, if you will, this collection of photographs in order to do so. So my statement is not hyperbole. I can indeed do that, and I have the science to back that up.
And it's just too neat. That is what is going on. And I'm going to tell people that you have free ebooks that they can download and read at www.scalarlight.com. So, and you need to check this website out anyway. It's absolutely brilliant. But it describes everything. It's got the Tesla information. I just really enjoy your website. But where else do you apply this?
I've done some work with plants. I'm trying to enhance plant life, and from my experiments, and they're few. I don't devote a great deal of time to this, but I can see where I can enhance crop yields. That if I can impart nutrients to a crop, I could promote a crop yield. I could abet the life cycle of a plant, corn, tomatoes, soy, etc. So there's a whole host of inventions, ideas that can spring from this quantum energy. It's really, the mind reels with the possibilities as to what can be achieved.
It truly does. And I'm going to tell you that my tomato plants right now could really use that. But
Yeah.
everything else is doing good. I just, planted a deck garden. And my tomatoes do not like living restricted lives. So they're going to have to go in the ground.
Yeah.
But it is really interesting because if people would recognize that, then we wouldn't need Monsanto poisoning us and being shielded from repercussions thanks to Congress.
Yeah.
So,
Well, Monsanto and the government are in bed together.
Sure
Monsanto,
they are. That's why we can't sue them.
Yeah, Monsanto has a government-approved monopoly, and
Yes.
that's the name of the game. And there's a lot of chicanery there that I don't care for, but that's the way things go with a government-sanctioned monopoly.
Yes. And it's very frustrating because, you know that their products are dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And, they have to they've regulated how they can be applied. They're so dangerous. So, so that it doesn't get overspray into a neighbor's, property or whatever. It's just really one of those things. And, I'm sorry to target just one company, but they're a lot more than just one company, and they are protected from civil action by congressional action.
Right.
Just, I am not making that up, I promise.
Yeah.
But, we're fixing to go to break. It'll be our final break.
Okay.
So, I can't believe time flies when you're having fun. If you have any questions, now would be the time to get them in chat and just let us know. I will make sure that Tom gets them. And we will be back right after this break.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Welcome back to the final segment of Fate Mag Radio. We are so glad that you're here, and I hope that you are enjoying this show as much as I am with Tom Paladino. He is the the creator of the Scalar Light. He has been a Scalar Light researcher for over 40 years. And I am so honored that you are here. Thank you.
Likewise. I'm honored to be here. Thank you, Kat.
It's been a great conversation.
Yes.
I mean,
you're a good conversationalist. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm curious. So when I find somebody that knows a lot about stuff I don't, this is my chance to learn. So, and I'm interested in a lot of different things, but this is something that really is a shining moment because, as I said, I worked for a nonprofit that supposedly nonprofit that mocked and called quackery treatments that were coming out of unusual sources for various cancers. And now those same treatments that were mocked and ridiculed are standard protocols for the treatment of various cancers. Mm-hmm. So I learned just from watching that you don't always know everything, even when you think you do.
Right.
So it's important to have an open mind and to be willing to get educated. You just have to be careful who you listen to. And you're a pretty good source.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we were talking about your pathogen cleanse and the nutrient therapy as well. So the bioenergy balance, you say that harmonizes the body for humans and animals?
Yes. We'll speak about the pathogenic cleanse first. What do I mean by a pathogenic cleanse? The instrument can be instructed to send a signal to a pathogen. And the signal, the instruction to the pathogen is for the pathogen to unbind or to break apart. I call that the pathogenic cleanse. It is the eradication, it's the removal of a pathogen by releasing the molecular bonds, by releasing the chemical bonds that hold together that pathogen, pathogenic cleanse. And secondly, there's another modality that we spoke about earlier. There's a chakra balancing. What do we mean by that? Scalar energy is a direct download into our 7 chakras. Everybody has 7 chakras. There's 7 meridians, 7 biofields. What are they composed of? Scalar energy. So a scalar energy instrument has an immediate interface with those 7 meridians, those 7 chakras. And in so doing, you can download information into your 7 chakras. The upshot of that is, with many people, is that they develop a deeper, a more meaningful sleep state. They can sleep soundly. A chakra balancing. Chakra balancing also seems to give people the feeling of elation or some type of euphoric uplift. So it has a psychological benefit that many people experience. Now, all of this is done by way of this quantum energy, scalar energy, and you have to experience this. Now, I can allude to it, and I could say, well, this is what other people have experienced, but the best thing to do is try one of our free trials, and we treat people for free, no questions asked, and then people say, yes, this is of merit, or no, it did not have any significant improvement in my psychological disposition. So I always like to start people out with a free session. And the free session is, if you will, it introduces people as to what we're doing. And that's the way I like to work with the general public. Let people feel comfortable with this. Let them have some type of affinity with this process before they go on and before they would become a paying subscriber.
Well, I will say that I think it's fantastic that you do that. It's something that, especially in the climate that we're living in, it's very easy to overstress, to lose your cool, just lose your center.
Yes.
That's what I was looking for. It's very difficult.
Yep.
And without your balance, without your spiritual balance, you are really vulnerable.
Yes.
To all of the things that your light treats, as well as just general disarray in the energy around you. So I think this is so important. And I was glad to try it, to have the opportunity to try it.
We're making great progress, and this is avant-garde. And the day will come that many people will see the benefit of this type of research. Maybe not today. Today's not the day, but people are starting to realize that there is another energy, another dimension out there, and that if we work within that dimension, wow, we can achieve so many things. So many benefits are to be derived from this energy.
Well, and it's universal energy. It's not something that you have to, be under a tutorship, or that's not the right word, but mentorship. Yes. I mean, you have a direct connector to the source of your spirit. I mean, your creator, God, whatever name you apply for what works for you. But that is the connection that gets your spirit grooving, gets the positive energy flowing. And when you are separated from what can fix you, then you suffer.
Yes.
And I think we're seeing a lot of that suffering right now.
Yep. There is a lot of suffering, and a lot of it is needless.
Yes, it is.
So we have to pray. There are some tough times in this country and around the world, and we have to look for solutions. Let's try and solve these problems. To continually bemoan and not look for a solution, but to continually complain and exacerbate the existing condition, it's not going to do anything. We need to find solutions. I know people are angry, but there needs to be solutions. And if we have to make some significant changes in our lives, then we'll make those changes. But the course that we've decided upon with these recent riots and protests, that's counterproductive. We know that. Anarchy never works. And I realize there's anger, there's hurt, and none of us want to see this racism in the world. But there's got to be a better way. We have to correct this.
Well, we do have to correct this. And I agree that what we're seeing is not a correction. What we're seeing is hurt, upset, angry people, justifiably on all of that. I am also being manipulated by those with agendas.
Yes.
And you can't have, you can't have anarchy in the streets because people are so busy, trying to get control and protect citizenry and do all the things that you can't have a discussion. Okay. And this has to be a discussion so that we can find the path to understanding and healing and how to fix the problem.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
And there are ways out there. We just have to get the politicians out of the way. So
yeah, there is a better way, and now I realize people are hurt, but we have to look through history, and we have to see how, unless you find an intelligent way of going about and solving these problems, it's only going to get worse. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but the course of action we've decided upon is disastrous.
It is.
It's disastrous, and it's only going to get worse this summer and later into this year if we don't correct this. There's got to be a better way. This is, we're on the verge of a civil war in this country.
Well, that's what the Twitterverse is saying. That's the big hashtag today.
I know.
And I'm going to share this because it's relevant to this. And I told you already that when I go to Gatlinburg, the only message that I get, and it's repetitive, is no matter where on a battlefield, in town, or whatever, is do not let this happen again. You cannot let this happen again. And I'm like, I am an individual.
Right.
And they're like, you have a platform. Do not let this happen again. So I'm just going to put out there that the people that have already been through this are real upset that there's a possibility of it happening again. They said it's not worth it. It's just not worth it. You have to learn to talk.
Yep.
But that's my 2 cents.
Yep. No, I get it, and I agree, and we have to pray that God will intervene here, and pray that that the necessary changes that need to be made from top to bottom are made. You can't give this lip service. Lip service doesn't cut it.
No, this is too important.
Right.
And it is important. I mean,
yes,
it's just a big deal. And, I understand the anger at the police. And I just can't even imagine what in the world was going through that policeman's head that murdered that man.
Yeah.
He's looking dead in the camera while he's doing it when he knows he's being recorded. I mean, it's like a Jason Bourne thing or something. It's so weird.
Yeah, many people have said that to me, and I'm not fluent in the subject, but his mind was somewhere else.
Well, it's almost like he was being controlled. It was just very odd.
Yeah. He was under some type of control. Okay, Kat, can I conclude? I want to tell everybody about the website. The website.
Yes, I want you to tell everybody.
That offers free sessions, free. Anybody in the world can sign up for free sessions. You submit your photograph. That's how we work with you. We administer energy remotely by way of your photograph. The website is scalarlight.com. Submit your photograph. Anybody in the world will treat anybody in the world for free, no questions asked. And just try it out. You have nothing to lose. It's a painless, simple process. We do all the work. All you need to do is send a photograph of some part of your skin. Scalarlight.com.
And I did that. And, I'm very, very interested in that because I see what everybody says. And y'all will too. When you go to scalarlight.com, you'll see the testimonials. You'll see a source for his downloadable books, and you'll enjoy it. But, our time is short. I so much appreciate you being here tonight.
Likewise. And I thank you for this platform once again. Thank you for your effort.
Well, you're welcome. And I hope we talk again soon because I would like to continue this.
Why not? Thank you. Yes.
Cool beans. And thank you, everyone who is listening. Y'all are the reason that we do this. And I appreciate all the support that I get. I just can't even tell you. Y'all are amazing. And so with that being said, it's a tough old world out there. We were talking about it. Be the change you want to see. Be the friends you want to have. If you truly put forth the thought, as we were talking tonight. Yes. Thoughts are powerful. They are part of the blanket of the universe. Yes. So make it so. Thanks again for being here. We appreciate you so much. And, I just don't even have enough words. So, good night, Tom. Good night to our friends in chat. And to all of you, let's make it a better world. Thank you. Good night.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.